Echo Chronicle 006, The Wolf of Fortress Volcairn. Part 1. The Broken Stone. The Druid reached Vargheim beneath a sky filled with snow. Ahead of him, Fortress Volcairn rose from the mountain. Its walls were black, its towers disappeared into the storm. 5 roads led towards its gates, one for each clan of Vargheim. The wolves came from the northern passes. The bears marched down from the high mountains. The ravens crossed the frozen ridges. The serpents travelled from the fjords. The stags came from the forest valleys. They had gathered for the stone call. It was the oldest meeting in Vargheim. Once, every deep winter, the 5 clan leaders stood before the same stone. They settled disputes, renewed old promises, and decided what the realm needed. No clan ruled the others. That was the law Torvald Varga had created generations before. Torvald had been the greatest warrior of his age. He defeated the other 4 clans. Then he refused to become their king. Instead, he drove his axe into the Stonecall and made peace with the leaders he had beaten. The weapon was called Oathscar. It was an ancient scar axe. Its blows did not simply damage iron or stone. They left weaknesses deep inside them. A second strike could awaken the damage of the first. For generations, Oathscar remained inside the stone, a warning to anyone who believed strength gave them the right to rule alone. That winter, Hakon Varga, Torvald's oldest son, pulled it free. The Druid stood at the edge of the courtyard while thousands watched. He could feel something moving beneath Volcairn. A faint current passed through the mountain. It touched the old axe, the stone call. The people gathered around it. An echo was beginning to form. It was not yet a memory. The story had not reached its end. Hakon raised Oathscar above his head. He was the leader of the Wolf clan, a powerful man, a respected warrior. His soldiers loved him because he fought beside them and shared their hardships. His younger brother, Eldric, stood several steps behind him. "Hakon," Eldric said. His brother ignored him. Hakon faced the clans. For generations, 5 leaders have argued while roads collapsed and villages starved. The courtyard fell silent. 5 clans cannot protect Vargheim with 5 different wills. The old leader of the bears stepped forward. "That is why we meet here." "No," Hakon replied. "We meet here because our ancestors were afraid to finish what Torvald began." The bear leader struck his shield against the ground. "Your father Torvald ended the clan wars." "He won the clan wars," Hakon said. "Then he gave away the victory." He pointed Oathscar towards the gathered warriors. "Vargheim needs one ruler." Eldric stepped between his brother and the clans. "Put the axe back." Hakon looked at him. "Kneel." It was a small word, but everyone heard it. The bear leader moved towards the stone. Hakon struck first. Oathscar hit the old man's shield. A pale red line spread across the iron. Hakon struck the same place again. The shield broke. His sword entered beneath the bear leader's armor. The old man fell beside the stone call. Blood ran across the ancient stone. The peace of Vargheim ended before his body touched the ground. Part 2. The War of the 5 Clans. The other clans escaped Volcairn before Hakon could close the gates. Eldric left with them. The Wolf clan called him a traitor. Hakon called him a coward. 3 nights later, the first wolf army entered Bear territory. The war spread quickly. Villages burned, bridges were destroyed. Men who had traded together in summer killed one another in winter. Hakon won the early battles. The wolves were the largest clan. They controlled Volcairn, its forges, and the old roads beneath the mountains. Harkon also had Oathscar. At the western pass, the bears built a wall of shields between two cliffs. Harkon struck the rock beside them. The first blow left a glowing scar. The second drove it deeper. The third brought half the cliff down upon the defenders. 20 warriors vanished beneath stone and snow. Harkon offered the survivors mercy if they knelt. Most did. Those who refused were chained. Eldric brought the 4 remaining clans together. It was not easy. The bears wanted revenge. The ravens wanted to protect their own mountain settlements. The serpents refused to commit their ships without guarantees. The stags were already overwhelmed by wounded families. Eldric listened until the arguments began repeating themselves. Then he placed his axe on the table. Harkon is counting on this. The daughter of the murdered bear leader stared at him. He is your brother. He stopped being only my brother when he spilled blood at the stone call. And after he dies, the wolves return to the other clans. The woman laughed bitterly. You expect us to trust them? I expect you to understand what happens if one clan wins this war alone. Eldric looked around the room. Harkon will still have been right. The alliance was formed before dawn. The war lasted through 2 long winters. The bears held the roads behind walls of heavy shields. The ravens watched the high passes and sent warnings with their black birds. The serpents attacked from the fjords and used rune chains to tear open gates and pull riders from their horses. The stags carried food and medicine through forests where wolf patrols could not follow. Eldric fought beside all of them. He remained a wolf, but he learned that a pack could be larger than one clan. Harkon changed his tactics. He stopped attacking armies. He attacked supplies. He burned shelters. He sent warriors through ancient tunnels beneath the mountains. Families woke to find wolf soldiers already inside their villages. Some surrendered, others died defending their doors. The snow covered them all. The largest battle came at a frozen valley beneath Volcairn. The 4 clans formed a single line. Bear shields stood in the center, serpent chains protected the sides. Raven archers waited above. Stag hunters moved through the snow. Eldric stood at the front. The wolf army appeared through the storm. Harkon marched at its center. The battle began without speeches. The shield walls collided. Axes struck armor. Men disappeared beneath boots and broken iron. Eldric killed many wolves. He recognized their faces. There was no time to remember their names. A bear warrior pushed a spear away from Eldric's chest. A second weapon entered his side. He killed the man who struck him. Then he fell into Eldric's arms. "Did the line hold?" he asked. The last words of a dying bear, an old man who was deeply rooted in his warrior traditions. Eldric looked towards the bear shields. They were still standing. "Yes," he nodded. "Then my oath is fulfilled," the old warrior whispered. His hand loosened in Eldric's grasp, and with the line still standing, he returned to his ancestors. Wolf horns sounded behind the alliance. Harkon had sent soldiers through the old mountain tunnels. The 4 clans were surrounded. The line broke. Eldric found Harkon among the battlefield. They fought in the snow. Oathscar broke Eldric's weapon. Harkon drove him to the ground. "Kill me," Eldric said. Harkon placed the axe against his chest. "No." "Why?" "Because dead men cannot kneel." Harkon turned towards Volcairn. "Take my brother home." With Eldric captured, the alliance broke. The surviving clans withdrew into the mountains, carrying their wounded and what remained of their banners. After 2 years of war, their great alliance had ceased to exist. Their strongest warriors lay dead, their supplies were lost, and the roads to Volcairn were sealed behind them. Only a few scattered companies escaped into the high valleys, too weak to continue the war, but still numerous enough to survive, recover, and wait for one final chance. Harkon believed the war was over. He was wrong. Part 3. The Prisoner Beneath Volcairn. Eldric was taken beneath the fortress. The cells were older than the towers above them. There were no windows, only stone, iron, and cold. Harkon visited him once. "The other clans are finished," Harkon said. "Stand beside me and this can end." "You mean beneath you?" "I mean alive." Eldric leaned against the wall. "You killed thousands to protect Vargheim from disagreement." "I killed thousands because disagreement was killing us slowly." "And when everyone kneels?" Harkon turned towards the stairs. "Then they will finally stop fighting." He left Eldric alone. Hours later, a green light appeared in the corridor. The Druid stepped from the darkness. Eldric raised his head. He recognized the silent traveler from the stone call. "Have you come to free me?" "No." "Then you chose a poor time to visit." The Druid placed one hand against the wall. The current beneath Volcairn moved through the stone. He could feel old footsteps, old decisions, and something Harkon had hidden. A section of the wall opened. Oathscar lay inside. After the battle, Harkon had replaced it with a larger axe made for a king. He had buried Torvald's weapon beneath the fortress. The Druid carried Oathscar towards the cell. "Why bring that to me?" Eldric asked. "Because your brother sees only what the axe can break." The Druid pushed it between the bars. "You may still remember what it was made to protect." Eldric reached for it. The weapon stopped beyond his fingers. "Closer." "No." Eldric glared at him. The Druid looked towards the chain fixed behind Eldric's shoulder. "The door is yours." Boots sounded on the stairs. 2 guards entered. The first attacked the Druid. His axe came down hard. The Druid raised his staff. Wood met iron. The blow stopped. The Druid turned the staff, pulled the weapon aside, and struck the guard beneath the ribs. The man collapsed. The second guard charged. The Druid stepped away and drove the base of his staff into the man's jaw. Bone cracked. The guard fell. More soldiers were coming. Eldric caught Oathscar with his boot and dragged it closer. He struck the chain anchor behind him. Once, twice. The third blow left a deep scar inside the stone. Eldric pulled. The wall broke. He wrapped the loose chain around the cell door and used the axe as a lever. The lock bent. The door opened. The next guard reached the corridor. Eldric buried Oathscar in his chest. The Druid looked towards a dark passage behind the hidden wall. "Those tunnels lead beyond Volcairn." "You could have opened my cell." "Yes." "Why did you not?" The Druid entered the tunnel. "Because breaking your chains was the first battle you needed to win yourself." Eldric disappeared into the storm, leaving the walls of Volcairn behind him. Word of his escape traveled through the hidden valleys and the sealed mountain passes. When it reached the scattered survivors, the remnants of the clans raised their banners one last time. They had no army left, no supplies for another long campaign. What remained was enough for a single final assault, and this time they would march on Volcairn itself. Part 4. The Storming of Volcairn. Eldric returned to the surviving clans, at least what was left of them. He brought them away into the fortress. The final attack began during a blizzard. The ravens climbed the upper walls. The serpents climbed the eastern cliff to a forgotten side gate. The stags entered through an old water tunnel. The bears marched directly towards the main bridge. There was no hidden road for them. They raised their shields and advanced through arrows, rocks, and burning oil. Eldric entered through a forge passage with a small group of wolves who had turned against Harkon. They carried no banner. Inside the tunnel, wolf fought wolf. There was no room to swing cleanly. Men struck with axe handles, shield edges, fists, and knives. Eldric drove Oathscar into a guard's breastplate. A woman fighting beside Eldric took an axe in the stomach. She held the attacker long enough for Eldric to kill him. She slid down the wall. "Do not stop," she said. Eldric closed her eyes. Then he moved on. At the main bridge, the bears reached the inner gate. It began to close. The daughter of their murdered leader ran beneath it. She raised her father's broken shield and caught the weight of the gate. 3 warriors helped her. The army passed beneath them. One bear fell, then another. The gate continued to descend. Eldric reached the other side. He saw the woman beneath it. "Help is coming, hold on." "No. There is still time. There is only enough time for you." Blood ran from her mouth. "Reach your brother." The old shield broke. The full weight of the gate came down. Eldric's warriors dragged him backwards as the iron crashed into the stone floor. For one breath, the bear warriors stopped. Hay raised their weapons and let out a single war cry. It thundered through the inner ward in honor of the woman who had held the gate long enough for them to enter. Then they turned towards the inner fortress. The gate had closed behind them. There was no retreat now. They pushed deeper into Volcairn, following Eldric through the smoke and fighting towards the great hall. Far below them, in another part of the fortress, the battle had reached the lower courtyards. The Druid entered through a shattered passage near the western tower. He was separated from Eldric and the main assault. Around him, wounded fighters and healers were trying to escape as fire spread through the old stone corridors. A damaged arch began to fall above a group of healers and wounded soldiers. He ran beneath it. Stone struck his shoulders and drove him to one knee. "Move," he said. The healers pulled the wounded past him. A frightened wolf child appeared through the smoke. A stag healer grabbed the boy and carried him to safety. The last soldier cleared the arch. The Druid released it. The corridor collapsed behind him. He climbed from the dust with one arm hanging lower than before. Above him, steel rang through the fortress. The echo beneath Volcairn was almost complete. Eldric reached the great hall with only a handful of warriors. Harkon waited before the burning banners of the 4 clans. A black scar axe rested in his hands, larger than Oathscar, built for war, built for a king. "You brought them into our father's hall," Harkon said. Eldric raised his weapon. "They came for Vargheim." Harkon stepped forward. "Then they can die for it." Part 5. The Last Wolf. Harkon's guards attacked. The hall became a storm of steel. The fighting spread across the inner ward. Volcairn's defenders gave ground step by step, but every advance came at a cost. Orders vanished beneath steel, smoke, and shouting. The wounded were dragged behind shattered pillars, while the others pressed on toward the keep. Eldric went straight for his brother. Harkon's black axe struck the floor. Stones split. Eldric moved inside its reach and drove Oathscar against Harkon's armor. The first strike landed. Harkon turned and hit Eldric beneath the jaw with the axe handle. Eldric fell. Hakon raised the weapon. Eldric rolled aside. The blade shattered the stone where his head had been. A second warrior rushed him. Hakon struck his shield with a single blow. He killed the warrior before he could rise. Eldric attacked from behind. Oathscar tore one plate from Hakon's shoulder. Hakon caught Eldric by the throat and drove him against a pillar. "Look at them," he said. 4 clans waiting for a wolf to decide their future. Eldric struck his brother's wounded side. Hakon released him. The remaining guards fell or lowered their weapons. The fighting stopped. A circle formed around the brothers. Neither army stepped inside it. Hakon looked at the warriors standing together. Wolves beside bears, serpents beside ravens, stag healers treating both sides. "They needed you to bring them here," Hakon said. "They came because you gave them no other choice. They came for revenge. Some of them did." Eldric wiped blood from his eye. They still came together. Hakon tightened both hands around the black axe. "You still believe Torvald was right. He understood something you never did. He was strong enough to rule Vargheim. Yes. And he was too weak to do it." Eldric looked at Oathscar. Its old handle was beginning to split. Its blade was chipped. There were stronger weapons in the hall, but none had carried the weight of so many generations. Hakon raised his axe. "I became what Torvald feared to become." Eldric looked at his brother. "No. You became what he defeated." Hakon attacked. His axe came fast. Eldric stepped forward instead of back. He trapped the long handle beneath his arm. The black blade struck the floor behind him. Eldric drove his forehead into Hakon's face. Hakon fell against the damaged pillar. He reached for a knife. Eldric saw it. For one moment, both brothers stopped. Hakon could have dropped the knife. He drew it. Eldric swung Oathscar. The blade entered beneath Hakon's armor. The knife fell. Hakon looked down at the axe, then at his brother. "Will they follow you now?" Eldric's voice broke. "I do not want them to." A weak smile crossed Hakon's face. That was Torvald's answer. Hakon's knees gave way. Eldric caught him before he struck the stone. For a moment, Hakon still fought to remain standing. One hand closed around Eldric's armor, his grip strong even as blood filled his mouth. "One Vargheim," he rasped. Eldric held his brother's gaze. "Not yours." Hakon tried to answer. No words came. His hand slipped from Eldric's armor. The anger remained in his eyes until the final breath left him. He did not beg. He did not repent. He died believing the realm should have belonged to him. Eldric lowered his brother beside the broken pillar and pulled Oathscar free. Hakon's blood ran into the fractures beneath them. Across the great hall, no one moved. Then Hakon's black axe slipped from the stone and struck the floor. The sound echoed through Fortress Volcairn. And the war was over. The war did not end with cheering. It ended with work. The fires were put out. The wounded were treated. The dead were carried from the fortress. The bears recovered the woman who had held the gate. The ravens released their birds with strips of white cloth tied to their legs. The serpents opened the prison cells. The stags treated wolf soldiers beside their own. Few days later, the 5 clans gathered at the damaged stone call. Eldric carried Oathscar towards the center. A wolf captain stopped him. "Vargheim needs 1 leader. It has 5. They may fight again. They may. Then take the throne before someone worse does." Eldric looked towards the place where Hakon should have stood. That was his reason. He placed Oathscar inside the ancient stone. The broken handle no longer fitted cleanly. Eldric adjusted it until the axe stood. "The old pact failed," he said. The clans watched him. "It failed because we repeated the words of our ancestors and believed that was enough." He looked across the 5 banners. "We will not renew it." The courtyard became still. "We will not restore what failed." Eldric raised Oathscar above the stone call. "We will forge something stronger from what remains. Not for the dead, not for a crown, for Vargheim." One warrior from each clan stepped forward. Not to strike the stone, each removed a piece of iron from their own weapon and placed it around Oathscar's broken handle. 5 pieces, 5 clans. Together, they formed a single binding. The new pact was not carved into the stone. It held the axe together. No crown was raised. No clan knelt. The Druid stood at the edge of the courtyard. He placed one hand upon Oathscar. The current beneath Volcairn moved through the axe. It carried the voices of the dead. The broken shield at the gate, the blood beneath the mountain, Harkon's final choice. Eldric refusing the throne. The weapon had not created those moments. It had endured long enough to remember them. The echo entered the stone. A mark even the universe had failed to erase. From that winter onward, Vargheim remembered 2 brothers. One believed strength meant forcing every voice into silence. The other learned that a realm endured because wounded voices still chose to answer one another, and beneath Fortress Volcairn, Oathscar remembered them both.